Today, the Senate Governmental Affairs Committee will be voting on congressional maps, authored by Senator Jay Martis, that will bring us in line with the recent Supreme Court ruling, because the Supreme Court of the United States has ruled that our current maps are unconstitutional, and they have enjoined us using those maps this year. Now, I know there is a lot of passion on both sides of this issue, and nobody appreciates a healthy debate more than me. All I'm asking from fellow Louisianians is that we have a civil and intellectual debate. I know that these senators are ready to hear you, and I know you will bring solid and passionate arguments. But again, I ask that we keep it civil and respectful.
Hello, I am the Independent. As you see that the video I am doing about these maps, he lied to you right off the bat by telling you that the Supreme Court says the maps were wrong, that they were illegal, which is a bunch of bullshit. Because the maps, all these years, your maps have been fine, just like all the other maps. Trump ordered for them to steal seats. That's what they're doing. Gerrymandering. That's what they're doing. They're saying that they're doing it to gain extra seats, to keep Republicans in the House, because they are doing so bad. The economy sucks, the war going on, and everything else. And they're looking for a way to keep their seats come November. So they're going to blow all kind of smoke up your ass and tell you that it has nothing to do with race. Bullshit. It's bullshit. Look what Tennessee did. And then march through the hallways with a cape of Trump on his back. What somebody should have did was they should have lit that fucking that cape up on his back. They should have set it on fire. Listen, they're trying to send us back to the Jim Crow times. They're trying to bring back the 50s and 60s. You heard what one of the governors said, that they want the Supreme Court to get rid of the 14th Amendment, to make us uncitizens. I tell you what, these racists, including your governor, he's a racist. If he's falling into this stuff, he's a racist. He's doing it for Donald Trump. He's doing it for the KKK. Because that's who is back. They never left. Only thing that the KKK did was they changed their hoods in for blue suits and seats and government. Also, in the Supreme Court, we have conservatives in the Supreme Court that are racist. That's why they're doing this. These billionaires are ordering them to do this. The KKK has made so much money over the years that they have now controlled the Supreme Court. They have controlled the Republican governors and senators. This is what is going on. This has nothing to do with maps. Not at all. This is all race. Why would they be targeting the black people, people of color. Good thing about this maybe is that it may backfire on them. If you have a lot of Hispanics in your states, and blacks and minorities, they could still vote blue and turn this whole thing around. We need a tidal wave of blue come election time. For me, I'm 70 years old. I've seen the racism over the years. I've seen the racism from the time I was a kid, okay? I know what it's like. And I am not willing to go back to having them do what they want to do. Racism is coming out of the closets. We have people in stores calling black people nigger now. When it happens to me in a store, that person may not go home. I tell you that. He may not go home. I might be 70 years old, but I am in the top shape of my life. I always have been. And I will not put up with racist bullshit like that is going on. Any way necessary to rid these racists from your states, do it, because they're in the state seats. They're in the state seats. They're your governors. They're your electors. Get rid of them, one way or another.
Okay. Tonight, while I was watching Rachel Maddow, she finally is starting to see it. They are taking districts in the South, Louisiana, which is 1/3 population black, and they're going to make it all white. South Carolina, they're doing the same thing. They have one black representative, and 1/4 of the population is black. Donald Trump took away the history of slavery at the Smithsonian. He took away the history of slavery at the President's House in Philadelphia. They took away slavery from Edgar Evers in Mississippi, said it wasn't about slavery. Says they're coming from shithole countries, talking about immigrants like they're animals, how they're poisoning the blood of America. He wouldn't even rent to black people in New York City. He questioned the birth of Barack Obama, the first black president. He asked for the execution and spent thousands of dollars at a newspaper to execute the Central Park Five with no evidence. Donald Trump is a white supremacist. That's not even a debate anymore. When I see the gentleman who's a professor who I'm going to interview, Eddie Claude, I believe he's from Princeton or Harvard, when he goes on and talks to Nicole Wallace, he says, when are we gonna take this snake by the head? Donald Trump is not the problem with America. White supremacy is. This country was built on the backs of black people. We treated them like absolute animals, like second-class citizens, worse than dogs. We beat them, we whipped them, and after we whipped them, we put salt on their wounds, we shackled them, we hung them from trees, we put them in our will-like property. They weren't even considered citizens for over 100 years, even though they were born here. When this country was designed, a black person was only worth 3/5 of a white person. This country was found by racist pieces of shit founding fathers. And if you don't like it, that's too bad. You can ship your white ass back to England where you came from. Because I've been to where the Mayflower docked in England by the big bridge. That's what this is about. When you listen to the racist podcaster That's what he spoke about. Fear of a white minority. You better fight like hell or traditional family white values is going away. Blame the roaming blacks, in his words. Ooh, Harris's Black Hillary. Is the pilot black? I don't know. You know, nobody ever goes around and says, is the pilot white? Is he qualified? But if it's a black pilot, he may not be qualified. Hey, look at Justice Jackson. One of the most intelligent justices ever to sit there. Whoa, she's an affirmative action hire. She's clearly not qualified. Go look at the group chats, people. Go look at the young Republicans in Miami-Dade using the N-word. Nazi group chats, demonizing women. Go look at the Republican group chat in New York late last year. N-word, calling black people watermelon people. When Donald Trump was elected in 2024, I have friends that didn't go to work. One of them told me, Paul, I didn't go to work the day after he got elected. He's like, do you want to know why? I'm like, yes. Because I knew that the white supremacists would come out, and that's what happened. They're saying, hey, the plantation owner's back. How do you like it now? Nigger. They would send her pictures of burning crosses. Look at how this white man is treated in the White House. I just want you to think about this, okay? Do you remember when Colin Kaepernick took a knee? He peacefully protested. He broke no laws. He stood for what was right. He stood for what needed to be stood for. And all of the white people lost their minds and canceled him because he kneeled before an American flag. But when a white man rapes women, when he defends child molesters, who's best friends with Jeffrey Epstein, the biggest child sex trafficker in the world, when he commits felonies, when he lies 30,000 times, when he cheats on every wife, one with a porn star, when he causes an insurrection and officers die, you all just ran to the voting booth and said, I want the white man. Because that's really what 2024 was about. It had nothing to do with politics. 77 million people could not stomach the black woman. She was the most qualified presidential candidate in the history of this country, and 77 million people said, nah, I'm good. I'm going to vote for the rapist white man. Man has an illegal war. They're going to gerrymander black districts. What do you need to see? Does he need to have a white hood and a burning cross behind him at the White House? When he said, I have very fine people on both sides? When he had dinner with Nick Fuentes, a white supremacist, in his house? And don't tell me that bullshit that he didn't know. That dude went through a secret service. He went through a background check. He knew exactly what was in his house. You just didn't care. Did he denounce David Duke, leader of the KKK, when he voted for him? No, because he wanted his vote. Who do all the white supremacists vote for? The black woman or Donald Trump? Yeah, did he denounce their votes? No, he didn't, because he wanted them. And for everybody that wants to say, I just want immigrants here legally, how did you justify voting for a white man who's a convicted felon and rapes women and defends child molesters? Why was that okay? Because he was the white man. And that's exactly the conversation I had with the family member today. And I really don't give a shit if he likes it or not, because he wasn't going to vote for the black woman. I asked him point blank, you voted for a rapist. Why? Because he's better for the economy. And I said, no, it's because you couldn't vote for the black woman. And he shut his mouth because he knew I was right. Barack Obama triggered a chunk of this country. And they were triggered that a black man was in the White House instead of picking their cotton out in the fields. That the White House was different on the inside instead of the outside. They are petrified of anybody that doesn't fit into their racist, bigoted version of straight white America. And for all of you fake ass Christians with your crosses that say this is a Christian nation, win. All the examples I just gave you, the lynchings, slavery, Jim Crow, Trail of Tears when we demonized Native Americans, when we locked up Asians in internment camps for years, when women couldn't vote, when you put black people in wills. Why were black people worth 3/5 of a person? If this is a Christian nation and we're all created equally in the image of God, why were black people less than? Because according to white supremacists with red hats, because that's what they are Klan members. Christianity to them is white supremacy. And they will slap a God label on anything that maintains white supremacy, including worshiping a racist podcaster and holding a Nazi-style rally in Arizona to worship a racist piece of human trash. Because that, my friends, is what this is really about.